Welcome to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from the Center for New Media at Middlesex Community College in Middletown. I'm Steve Minkler, the college's campus CEO and academic dean. I'm surrounded by students enrolled in our studio television production course. You can't see or hear them, and that's because they're behind the scenes running all of the equipment that makes Middlesex Moments happen. In fact, we're producing this episode for television, YouTube, Facebook Live, and WLIS WMRD radio all at the same time. So many thanks to the crew and their professor, Rich Lenosi. The first segment of our show is called In the Loop. It's a news summary featuring 3 short stories from the many things happening here on campus. It's a way to keep you in the loop about everything happening at your community college. On April 9th, Middlesex Community College joined hundreds of schools and colleges across the nation by hosting our first ever Fresh Check Day, an uplifting information fair that focused on mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and promoting positive, supportive relationships. Over 100 students visited Fresh Check Day to participate in interactive booths hosted by fellow students and college staff members. The booths were designed to increase awareness of campus and community-based mental health resources available to students, reduce stigma and misconceptions around mental health and suicide, and empower students to take action if a friend shows sign of suicide or mental health concerns. By engaging the entire college community in this campus-wide movement, students were reminded that they are not alone and that their mental health is valued just as much as their physical health or their academic standing. Fresh Check Day was sponsored by the Behavioral Intervention Team, the Student Senate, the Middlesex Community College Foundation, and the Jordan Porco Foundation. On April 22nd, Middlesex Community College held its annual Springfest. Middlesex Moments reporter Allison Buckley visited Springfest and filed this report.
Some students at MxCC came out for the annual Springfest, filled with a live band, free food, and information tables for various clubs and causes. English professor Ashley Rathel's table is informing students the importance of voting in every election.
I always keep the next voting date, the next election date on my table. So like our next election date is November 5th, 2019, which is a local race. So usually when it's on presidential election, there's less young voters. So I am encouraging people to get more involved in local politics as well as the big elections, which next year will be a really big year.
After registering, students enjoyed good food and relaxation with friends before finals begin. This is Allison Buckley with Middlesex Moments.
Middlesex Community College's chapter of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society welcomed 52 new members on March 29th and has been collecting several awards. In fact, on April 5th, chapter president York Clement accepted the Distinguished Chapter Officer Team Award at the Phi Theta Kappa Catalyst Convention in Florida, the only New England region chapter to win a National Phi Theta Kappa Award this year. The members of the team were Alexander Foster, the secretary, Deborah Kennedy, vice president, and Benjamin Mosteller, the Senate representative. In March, the Middlesex Community College chapter earned the Team Officer Award at the regional level and was designated as a 5-star chapter for 2019. And finally, York and fellow PTK member Jacob Murphy were recognized as part of the All-Connecticut Academic Team at a ceremony held at the state capitol on April 12th. There you have it. Now, you're in the loop at Middlesex Community College. You're probably wondering why I'm surrounded by a crime scene, but when we come back, we'll learn why when we'll meet Professors Rebecca Rist-Brown and Lisa D'Angelo from the college's Criminal Justice and Criminology Studies programs. This is Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. Stick around, we'll be right back.
I really had no idea of what I wanted to do, so I worked a lot of minimum wage jobs. And finally, I was just like, I just need to go back to school because I wanted to get a business degree. And Middlesex Community College was super convenient.
The reason I chose the Middlesex Veterinary Technology program was because of all the opportunities it had with Piper Olson Veterinary. There's no other place where you would have access to that. I would definitely recommend Middlesex to anybody who's interested in that career because you're going to be 100% prepared to start your job.
Never thought I would have reached this far with my associate's degree. It allowed me to buy a house. I was able to get married. It was a dream.
Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, and now I'm joined by Rebecca Rist-Brown and Lisa D'Angelo from the college's Criminal Justice and Criminology Studies programs. Welcome, and thanks for coming to the show.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks
So
for having
Rebecca,
us.
you're the program coordinator, and I would think criminal justice is a pretty broad field. So what's involved in the criminal justice program at the college?
We like to say that criminal justice involves the 3 C's: courts, cops, and corrections. It does involve a lot more than that too now, with forensic science, victimology, so on and so forth, but it really encompasses all those different fields. The great thing about the field of criminology and criminal justice is you can take any other field and incorporate it into criminal justice. Forensic psychology, we have forensic accounting, a big thing, cybercrime. So you can take all these other fields within the college, and there's somehow a little niche within criminal justice for you.
Okay, so if a student isn't quite sure which niche they might want to go in, how would they know that criminal justice is the right program for them?
Well, first they'd meet with us. So they'd meet with myself or one of our other faculty members, or even our educational assistant, and we would kind of go through with them. We'd give them this informational packet, and in here there's some stuff in there about, actually one of our pamphlets in here that says, is criminal justice the right career path for you? When we meet, we talk about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do you like to do, you know? If you're more into the science aspect, we might start talking about forensic science. If you're more into helping victims, we might talk about a career path in victimology. So really it's meeting with you and understanding what your career goals are.
Okay. And I think one great way that you can help the students is the fact that you and all the members of the criminal justice faculty have experience in one field or another in CJ, right?
Absolutely. All of us, one of the strengths of our program is that all of our faculty are practitioners. Myself, I was a practitioner. Lisa is a practitioner. Every single one of our faculty is either in the field or has been in the field.
Okay. And Lisa, tell us a little bit about your background. You're a part-time instructor here at the college, but you're a prosecutor as part of your day job?
I am. So I've been here at Middlesex Community College since the fall of 2005, teaching criminal justice classes, both online and traditional classroom setting. But my full-time job, as you said, is I'm a prosecutor. Some states, they call them district attorneys. In Connecticut, we're called state's attorneys. And I've been in New Haven for almost 13 years now, prosecuting criminal cases.
Okay. And what do you like most about teaching at the college? Is that a really great way for you to share what you know from your career with students?
It's an excellent way. I think that it's very helpful having the day-to-day experience in the criminal justice field to kind of apply what happens in real life practice to what we're learning out of the textbook. I think the students really do appreciate that. And you know, it gives them an opportunity if they ever want to come chat with me for a day or see a courthouse or have questions about a courthouse or anything that goes on in the criminal justice system with regard to the court side of it. And I think that's really valuable to the students. And over the course of, 14 years I've been here, I met some really great students and very interesting people from very different backgrounds, and that's been a great experience for me as well.
Okay. And Rebecca, what's your background in the field of criminal justice? Previously, you were a police officer?
I was a police officer for 6 years, 2 different departments, South Windsor and Madison. I was also a police certified instructor in criminalistics and crime scene. So the gory, gushy stuff that we'll see later, that's my field of expertise.
Okay. So the gory, gushy stuff we'll see later, you were talking about a crime scene simulation that we're going to do later in the show today. What are some other kind of crime scene simulations that you do with students in your classes?
We now teach the SCI 285, which is a forensic science class with lab. Part of the final project for the students is they actually have to process and analyze a mock crime scene. So we have done some very different ones. We've had the Boondock Saints themed one. We've had Bad Day for Bob. But we set up all these fake crime scenes for the students, and they come in and they get all these different scenarios. And when they come in, the students always ask me, what's your inspiration? And I says, well, some of these I've actually been to. So the students need to recognize that they are going to go to these things in the field.
All right. And when they go to these things in the field, it's much different than what they might see on TV in a crime show that is, really popular these days, right?
Absolutely. I cannot watch CSI. I yell at the TV way too much. And that's one of the biggest things in this program is we're trying to demystify, and I'm sure Lisa can attest to this as well, from the courtroom perspective, we try and demystify all these fake things. It's called the CSI effect. We're trying to show the realities.
Okay. And Lisa, what are some of those things from your perspective that you try to debunk in the classes you teach as part of the program here?
Well, a lot of things you see on TV is, we can get DNA in, a few seconds. We can find out who committed a crime and within, an hour TV show. And in real life, that just doesn't really, that doesn't happen. Just because someone touches something doesn't mean that their DNA is on it, or just because they touch something, their fingerprints may not be on it. So it's not as easy as it seems on the TV shows to solve crimes a lot of the times. And what the TV shows have done is now even jurors and students talking to them, they have these very high expectations of what they expect in order to, say, convict someone of a crime. They expect to see DNA, fingerprints. They expect to have, eyewitness identifications by, the victim if they're survived, if it's not a homicide, as well as maybe someone else. And that's just not the case in every crime.
Okay. And because it is different than what popular culture teaches us, what kind of students are you looking for? There's got to be certain qualities in a student. Obviously somebody who doesn't mind being called in the middle of the night to go to a crime scene. But what kinds of attributes make a perfect criminal justice student?
The perfect criminal justice student is the student who can think outside the box, that comes in with critical thinking skills. Because when you go into law enforcement, you never know what you're going to encounter. I had one shift where I had to catch 2 horses. I never thought as a police officer I'd have to catch horses, but I had to. We had another scenario where an officer had to buy a chicken on a call to settle a neighbor dispute. Okay, so you have to really think outside the box at how to fix these situations. And there's no guidebook. And you have to think on your toes, you have to think quick, and you have to use your critical thinking skills. And the biggest thing is your communication skills. You have to be able to talk to people, and you have to have great writing skills. CSI, if it was really true, 96% of the show would be us writing reports. Okay. And nobody would watch the show.
Okay, well with that in mind, what's your favorite class to teach in the program?
Oof, that's a tough one. I have to say I'm kind of partial to my forensic science class.
Okay, all right. And Lisa, how about you, your favorite class that you teach in the program here?
Well, I've taught a lot of classes over the years, and currently I'm teaching criminology and criminal law 1 every semester, and I really do enjoy those classes. And just with regard to criminal justice students, one of the biggest shifts I've seen since I've been at the college is when I first started, almost everyone in the classroom wanted to be a police officer. And in the course of the last 14 years, it's people are realizing that there's other jobs in criminal justice other than becoming a police officer, and I think that's been really great to see over the past 14 years here at the college.
Okay. So for students who are interested in this program, Rebecca, there's really kind of 2 tracks, if you will. There's criminal justice and criminology studies. So maybe kind of quickly, what's the difference between the 2?
The criminal justice career track is more of our career degree. That's our traditional degree if you're planning on going right out into the career field afterwards, or if you're planning on maybe transferring to University of New Haven or one of the privates. The criminology is the TAP pathway, the transfer and articulation policy pathway to our state university system. So that's going to be Central, Southern, Eastern, Western, and Charter Oak. So that's the pathway to get them into the criminology program at the bachelor level.
Okay. All right. So, and I think so a student can actually leave with an associate's degree and find some meaningful work or transfer out. Sounds great. Okay, so to those of our viewers, we're actually, after our break, going to be entering a simulated crime scene similar to one of the ones that Rebecca was describing. So just want to give you a quick heads up. We're going to have a mannequin who's going to look like a dead body, and we have some simulated weapons and other materials that you'll see when we come back after the break. So just want to give you a quick heads up on what you're going to be seeing, and Lisa and Rebecca are going to guide me through as if I were a student to process this crime scene. So after the break, we'll come back with our simulated crime scene. You're watching Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Starting back in high school, was not the best student, and so I decided that Middlesex was the best option for me.
I chose Middlesex because they had a lot of different programs that I was interested in. For me, it was just easier to come here part-time and also keep my job. Middlesex, I would say, helped me get my foot in the door in the news business.
I had professors that cared about me, that pushed me in ways. I went to Middlesex Community College and transferred to Wesleyan University with a full scholarship.
The Center for New Media has all the stuff that I see daily at News 8 to be able to jump on and say, I have experience with a control room, I have experience with a TV studio. It's definitely a good choice.
Welcome back to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. This is CSI Middlesex. I'm Steve Minkler with my guests Lisa D'Angelo, Rebecca Rist-Brown from our Criminal Justice and Criminology Studies program. So we've entered a simulated crime scene here. We have a victim on the floor with an assortment of simulated weapons and other materials, and you're asking me to help process this crime scene.
Yep, Steve, we're gonna put you on the spot here.
All right.
So tell us what you see.
Okay,
what
so
do you
we've-
think happened?
So we've just entered this space here, and we see this body on the floor with, wow, a bloody wrist. We have blood coming out of the top of his head.
Good, you got the good CSI
Some beer, yeah, we got our CSI stance. We're
Stance.
down on the ground here. We've got some looks like prescription medication bottles, a cigarette, a gun pointed to his head, a shell casing down there, some empty alcohol bottles, a knife, and wow, a note that you're standing on there.
Oh, yep, I will move out of the
Which
way.
says, "Life sucks, I'm done, can't deal, bye. I leave everything to my dog." Wow. I think this is a straight up suicide. We got a gun pointed to his head, we've got blood everywhere, probably tried to cut his wrist first, we got a bunch of pills. So I think, draw the chalk outline, let's start picking some stuff up here.
No, hold on. Yeah, well, first, you're not in the right PPE, okay? As much as we like the CSI shows where they're all wearing khaki pants and white shirts and high heels, that's not what we would wear at a proper scene. You need to put on this very attractive Tyvek suit.
Okay.
That would be the first thing we'd start with. And before anything is ever touched, gloves. Everybody's got to have gloves. And nothing gets touched until the proper documentation is done. That includes photographing, measurements, note-taking, sketching, videotaping. Documentation will usually take the bulk of the actual crime scene processing. So we wouldn't pick anything up probably for hours until everything is mapped out
all right.
properly.
Okay.
It's very important not to contaminate the crime scene or anything, just in case there is DNA or fingerprint evidence that can be retrieved from the lab. So it's very important to make sure you have the proper equipment on before you enter or touch anything.
And I probably don't want someone else's blood on my hands either, right?
That
Yeah,
is
that's probably a
wrong.
good idea.
Yeah, no.
So in my mind, I mean, gosh, he probably tried to take a bunch of pills, then tried to slit his wrist, and then the gun pointed to his head. I mean, that's seems kind of straightforward. Can we just take some pictures of his hands and send those to the lab, get some fingerprints back in a couple hours? And
Nope, that's Hollywood again.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Test results usually take weeks, if not months, sometimes years, depending on what it is. Autopsy results, minimum for toxicology screening is 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
So it's not like that in CSI where they have a little iPad and they get the results immediately and the DNA and so on and so forth. It does take time, and actually in Connecticut, we can't touch the body until the ME comes, the medical examiner, because actually the body is his, technically.
Oh, all right.
So we would have to wait for their investigators to come out. But things aren't always what they seem because we have to look for some of the subtleties, such as we have the cartridge casing out here. If it was a suicide, this is a bolt-action rifle. How did the cartridge casing get out? You know, if we stand up and do the ballistics, actually, you'll find out it doesn't align properly.
Okay.
So things aren't what they seem. What you started getting is something that we tell students not to get, which is called tunnel vision in criminal justice, where you start seeing what you want to see and then you start making the pieces fit that instead of looking at it objectively. This is a science and we need to use objectivity. And Lisa will tell you in the courtroom, this is where defense attorneys and prosecutors will pull this apart, looking at the different theories.
So it's very important to, as I said, not to contaminate the crime scene and to keep an open mind, okay? Because you may miss something when you have that tunnel vision. If you came in and automatically said this is a suicide, maybe I'm not going to be so careful with bits and pieces, and then all of a sudden, 6 weeks later you find out, well, maybe it's not a suicide. Well, now a lot of damage could have been done in that 6 weeks. So it's very important to treat every scene carefully, and documentation is what we need. So some of the things that police officers or crime scene analysts do when they arrive on a crime scene is they have to take photographs. Photographs of everything that's here the way they found it. Don't move anything, don't touch anything. And that's just important to begin with. And then, as Rebecca said, once they start collecting evidence, it's very important to make sure that you have gloves on and the proper gear on so that you're not contaminating anything with your own DNA or your own fingerprints or even your own shoe prints. You don't realize sometimes, especially in a scene like this, where there's blood on the ground, that if you were to just, walk through, well, now we have your shoe prints throughout the scene of the crime. So it's very important and can take a very long time to process a scene. And then what's important too is documentation, as Rebecca indicated earlier. If CSI was real life, like 95% of it would be officers, writing reports. And I think that's a misconception, and especially with the students, is they don't realize how important writing is in law enforcement. So that is another big piece of the follow-up and the aftermath of actually analyzing and processing a crime scene.
Okay. So maybe a better way that I could have walked into this is almost treat it as the beginning of a research project, right? I'm seeing something in front of me,
Absolutely.
as you said, don't touch anything. I'm just observing, writing down what I see, photographing the evidence that is in front of us, and kind of put all the pieces together, and then as things like the toxicology report and other reports come back, starting to make a bigger, having all the pieces of the puzzle come together. I got to think too, now looking at it again, there are multiple ways this victim allegedly maybe committed suicide by my first thing, and either he's got a really hardy constitution or he failed at pills and alcohol and a knife wound and a shotgun. So how would we pull that apart to determine the cause of death?
So we would be working with the ME's office to really kind of look at what did they find from the tox screening, so on and so forth. What were the pills in his system? Do they match it? One of the biggest things that we have actually students do in the forensic science class is not only do they have to know what evidence to collect, but what order to do the testing in. Because if you do the testing in the improper order, you can actually damage the evidence, which can cause problems later on for Lisa when she goes to trial. So the students really have to understand, okay, the Corona bottles, I might do fingerprinting, then DNA, and then toxicology on it. So one piece of evidence might be subjected to multiple tests. But of course, we can't forget about our warrants. We always need to get our warrants. In
There is a
CSI,
process.
they never seem to get a warrant. We need a warrant, a search warrant, to be able to do a lot of this testing process. Otherwise, when it gets to Lisa's level, it can get thrown out.
Okay.
That is correct.
And right now, we don't even know the identity of this person. There's
Nope.
nothing here, maybe except if there's something on that phone. There's no wallet, or there's no anything that would indicate who this person is, unless some of those prescription bottles are accurate, right? Because there might be a name on
could
there.
be.
So right now, we don't even know who this victim is.
Nope, and it's not like CSI where we'll take a picture and all of a
Yeah.
sudden the bio scan and 2 minutes later it shows that his mugshot is this person. We like to affectionately call this guy Bob, though.
Bob, okay.
This is Bob's bad day. Okay? But this is all the stuff that students will learn throughout the criminal justice program. They'll learn in my course with forensic science. They'll learn about the physical evidence. When they get to Lisa's class, they learn in criminal law what statutes will we use, evidence and procedures. They learn about submitting this evidence. So it really is a collective process throughout our program to learn all these different steps.
Okay. And again, to think of it like a research project, if I'm the investigator writing this out for someone, I would think I really need to do that immediately so I don't forget key details. Like, why I'm not going to wait a week to write my report. But remembering that my supervisor or you might be reading this report, it has to be really clear to you. So what are some tips to a budding investigator to make sure that their reports are done in a really clear manner that is the way you can interpret it best?
So usually investigators on scene will have they'll have notebooks, and they'll take notes as they go, because we don't expect people to remember every single thing. And they also have lots of photographs that they'll be taking in the course of it. And just, I tell my students in the class, just practice writing. It's so important. We have these research papers, we have other shorter papers. It's so important to learn how to write, because in law enforcement, it's what you do a lot of the time, and they don't realize how much writing is done. And some of the documentation that they do on scene, and Rebecca, we have the yellow stanchions with the numbers, is that they just organize, make sure everything's organized nice and neat, and take the photographs so that when they go back to the police department or the lab, whoever they're working for, they can, refer to the photographs from the crime scene and then write a thorough report as to exactly what they observed. And when writing reports, we don't want any opinions. Like, Steve, when you walked in, you said, I walked in and this is clearly a suicide. We don't want any opinions in a report. It is a fact-based, what you observed, what you did type of report. And that's also very important for law enforcement to remember.
Okay. So Rebecca, if you were the investigating officer, how would you approach the scene differently than I did?
We always come in and the biggest thing that is on our side is time. And a lot of times we're seeing is that people want to rush things. You don't want to rush things. You want to sit back, use your time, analyze the whole scene. And before you touch anything, have a plan. Have them plan in place, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do next. Because you have to remember, as you're collecting evidence too, you could be damaging other evidence in the process. So if we were to try and roll this body over, we might move some of this stuff accidentally. So you have to have a very systematic method of looking on how you're going to process this to make sure nothing else further gets damaged. Also, we'd probably have hairnets on, and we wouldn't be talking at a scene. We wouldn't be talking at the scene because just talking, we can be contaminating with DNA. And we would definitely not have our hair down.
Okay. Okay, well that kind of wraps up our CSI Middlesex segment here after looking at this simulated crime scene. And I want to thank Professor Rebecca Rist-Brown, Professor Lisa D'Angelo from our Criminal Justice and Criminology Studies program for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Actually, one of the great things about this program is you have a lot of alumni out there who are connected to the college in many ways and help host our students, but also are really supportive of our program. And recently, the Middlesex Moments crew went to visit Captain Gary Wallace of the Middletown Police Department to learn more about his job and his connection to the college.
Are you interested in the criminal justice program at Middlesex Community College? Here's some first-hand experience from former graduate Police Captain Gary Wallace to give us an insight on what it takes to get a job in law enforcement.
So my educational background includes an associate's degree from right here at Middlesex Community College in 2009. My degree here at Middlesex was, like I said, in criminal justice, and then once I graduated, I went on to Charter Oak State College, where I'm pursuing an online degree in organizational leadership. So for any students out there who may be interested in law enforcement, any degree program is really relevant in law enforcement. I don't care if it's accounting or psychology. It doesn't always have to be criminal justice related. We do have internships at the police department where we have brought in students who get to work directly in the detective bureau right alongside real live detectives, help work on cases, and that's always great. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in law enforcement, contact your local police department and see what kind of programs they offer, like ride-along programs or internships, because you never know where your career can lead you.
Reporting back to TV Studio Productions, I'm Anthony Leone.
Many thanks to Gary Wallace, a proud alumnus of Middlesex Community College. Thanks to Rebecca and Lisa, and thanks to you, our listeners and viewers, for joining us for another edition of Middlesex Moments. As always, you're welcome to visit us in person at our main campus here in Middletown at 100 Training Hill Road, or at our Meriden Center located at Platt High School, 220 Coe Avenue, where we offer afternoon and evening classes 4 days a week. And of course, you can always visit us online 24/7 at mxcc.edu. For Middlesex Community College, I'm Steve Minkler, and we'll see you again soon.